Good evening. My name is Devin Parlikar, and I am going to do a demo today to make prawn pickle. And again, I'm not a professional chef. I do it because I love cooking, and most of my recipes are home recipes. This is an old traditional home recipe. A prawn pickle is a common condiment in Maharashtra, Goa, coastal Karnataka. We each do our own thing with prawns to make it a pickle. This happens to be my family's recipe. I'm based in San Diego, California in the United States, and so we don't always get raw prawns. So what I'm doing today is, let me show you the ingredients for tonight's demo. I have prawns. These are it's what we call bay shrimp in the West. It's the baby prawns. In India they call it karandi, in Marathi ambar, Parsis call it ambar in Gujarati. So that's prawns. These are cooked. It's a little tricky to work with cooked prawns, but if you get cooked prawns, depending on where you are in the world, you can still do this recipe if you follow along. Garlic. This is about two big heads of garlic, a little over two actually, that I turn into a paste. Some people will add ginger to it. I don't. I use garlic straight up. Tamarind for some sourness, and also tamarind is a good preservative. Again, you can do it the old-fashioned way. Get a ball of tamarind, soak it in hot water, and squeeze the pulp out. I take the shortcut. You get this in grocery stores. If you're in a rush, buy this. It comes in really handy. In terms of spices, we have your traditional chili powder. So about 3 tablespoons of chili powder, little under 2 tablespoons of turmeric, about 2 tablespoons of methi powder. If you don't have it, take whole methi, put it through a blender, make a powder. That's what I did today. Hing, S04E05, about a tablespoon. Salt to taste. And then this is achar masala. Again, any Indian grocery store, you'll find it. It's super easy. Some people add it to this. For me, it just depends on my mood. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I will today, but generally I do with what I have at home. Oil. One of the most important ingredients in making a prawn pickle is making sure you have the right oil. I use avocado oil, and this may not be available everywhere in the world, but the trick is not to use olive oil, because olive oil disintegrates at high temperatures. When you're making this pickle, you need to make sure that the oil heats up to smoking so that you roast all the masalas and the garlic properly. And so peanut oil is a good substitute. I would stick to any oil that stays stable at high temperatures. Avocado oil does, and so that's what I use. Again, you can use peanut oil, but avocado oil is the way to go. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to turn over and go to my burner and start cooking, and we'll be right back with you when we start the cooking process. Okay, so we are going to start making the prawn pickle. So I try and use this kind of container, thick bottom, and I use a whole cup of oil. Actually, I want to add a little bit more, cup and a half. Because remember, the prawn pickle will stay if it's in a lot of oil. The oil is what preserves it. Plus, honestly, if you're going to make a pickle, don't be stingy with oil. You don't eat a lot of it. You eat it sparingly. And use a good oil, get it to a nice temperature, all that good stuff. So, oil. You heat up the oil, and this has to get to almost smoking hot. Because what you're going to do is you're going to then start adding, because the prawns are already cooked, you add the masalas, and then you add garlic, and then stir the garlic, cook it really well, and then add the prawns. So I'll show you exactly the process. Now, some people will add curry leaves. It's very common in Goa and Karnataka. They'll use curry leaves. They might even use slivered ginger. I don't do any of that. My pickle is much more straightforward. But again, you can use all those variations. It still turns out really good. Now, this thick bottom pan, this we got in India. So it's got a copper bottom. So it heats up really well and it keeps the heat, which is what you need. You can't let the oil cool down during the process. You got to make sure that it's still hot when you're cooking it. So you test it a little bit with some methi in it, and it's not quite ready. Maybe it is. So start with your methi. let it come to a nice, you get a nice sort of you'll get the right aroma of the methi cooking. It's got its own little pungent kind of aroma to it. Then add the hing. And again, these are all spices that are added to give it a little more, give it the preservative that it needs to stay. Also the taste, I think methi tastes absolutely phenomenal, so I use it a lot in cooking. And then I just gotta go with all the other masalas. And they'll start to froth a little bit, right? Look at that beautiful color. Now, the thing you want to do is use a nice colorful mirchi powder. Kashmiri mirchi powder works really well. I get this done at my parents' grocer in Baroda in India, and they do a fabulous job. So this is that mirchi that gives out a really nice color. And I add the garlic to it. And if you're here with me, you'd be salivating. It smells so good. So, and Kevin, my friend who's taking this video, agrees with me. I think it's smelling awesome, right, Kevin?
It is.
We let it boil for a little bit. It chars the garlic really well. Keep stirring because in a thick bottom container, the garlic sometimes sticks to the bottom, and you don't want that. If it sticks a little, it's okay. Just gently run your spatula around. Always use metal because this is so hot that if you use plastic, you're likely going to disfigure the plastic, not to mention you'll probably melt some of it into your... But look at this. So this, and I cook it really well. Now, if you had raw shrimp, if you had raw prawns, you'd add them about now because you want the prawns to cook. And then you keep stirring until the prawns get a little tough. I mean, it's a pickle, so the prawns are not going to be nice and soft. They're going to get a little tough in the pickle. So at this point, I take a little bit of this. And I'm going to add some. And then about a teaspoon or two, but it's the sour spice, so you can do it to your liking. So add, as they say in Hindi and Marathi, andaz. Just kind of see how much you want. You can also add lime juice. If you have a nice key limes or limes, nice juicy limes, you can do lime juice. I don't use lemon, because American lemons, when you put them in hot curries, they tend to turn a little bitter. But I do well with limes here. So key limes or regular limes work well. At this point, I think I'm going to add the prawns. All right, guys. So we've been stirring this for a while, for the last 5-7 minutes or so, and the oil is starting to separate a little bit. Now, I do have some of the achar masala. Remember we talked about that. This is optional. Now this, just keep stirring it, it'll be fine. But today I'm going to add some of this. You don't have to. If you choose to, you may. If you don't want to, you don't need to. I'm going to do it a little bit. Add it. Gives it a nice little crunch. It adds a little more to the color. The aroma is absolutely divine. You really can't go wrong. The only thing you need to taste once you add all the masalas and everything is do a final taste for salt and adjust for salt and sour. So if you need to add more tamarind or some lime juice, I might mix it up a little and add a little lime juice to it. Feel free to experiment. One thing I would tell you not to add is any kind of powdered citric acid. I've tried it and it breaks down the prawns. So the prawns turn to mush if you add citric acid. The acid in that citric acid powder is just a little too strong for these baby prawns to survive. I made it once and it turned into almost like a mush khichdi of prawns. So I highly recommend that you stick with either lime juice or tamarind. They do the trick and we maintain the color and all that good stuff. So with that, I am going to be back in a few minutes after this is completely done. All right, folks, So the pickle is done. So Kevin, if you come closer and just take a close up, do you see that nice layer of oil? Now, some of you might want to add a little bit more. So there's like a nice big layer of oil. This much pickle in our household lasts barely for a week and a half because my kids will eat it with toast. They'll eat it with dal chawal and pickle. It's a nice meal. So very versatile. It stores really well. When I was a student here, my aunt would send me prawn pickle in a jar, and so this is our typical mason jar we use for canning of vegetables and fruits, fruit preserves and things like that. So if you put it through the sterilization process and then pour the pickle in here and seal it with canning wax, this can stay up to 2 months easy. So I know that because as a student I used to get this sent to me from Kenya and from India, and I would use it for a few months. So again, you can can it. I store it in the refrigerator. Be careful. Do not warm this. This is supposed to be had cold. Take it out of the refrigerator, just pour a dollop of it on your plate and enjoy. If you want the recipe, well, not if you want, I will give you the recipe. I will send the recipe in writing as well. Follow it to the T. Get creative. Add things that you want. Take things out that you don't like. A lot of this is just experimentation. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed doing this for you. So have a great evening, great day, great night, wherever you're in the world. It was fun to spend a part of my evening with you. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you.